While there are some AEW stars that are never going to WWE, there are some that could end up there. Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. Starting off with stars that won't be going to WWE is a former WWE star and a former WWE champion, Jon Moxley. Of course, you'll remember his time in WWE as Dean Ambrose, and the biggest reason why he will not be going back to WWE has to do, one, with the creative control and the greater amount of freedom he has in AEW to be himself, to do the violent, hardcore shtick, to bleed whenever he wants to, but also the biggest indication that he's not going back, this is the second point, are just all the things he has said about WWE since he has left the promotion. We go back to July 29th of 2020, he told Busted Open Radio, Moxley said, "It's really simple. It's a lot of things, but the simplest thing is they don't give me a script. If I had to boil it down to one thing that drove me crazier than anything was the fact that I got handed a script and told what to say. The first time that ever happened, we were in the Shield, and they handed us a script. Even in developmental, we were down there with Dusty Rhodes. That was one of the best times I had in the business in FCW cutting promos. I heard the term scripted promos. That blew my mind. The first time they handed me a script, it was like Roman says this, Seth says this, Dean says this. I thought it was a suggestion and they were filling in words on the run sheet. I was like, okay, to the writer, I got some cool ideas. We can say this or that. And they were like, no, this is the way you're going to say it. I was like, yeah, but this is my idea. And it was made very clear to us that this is what you were going to say. I remember having this feeling in the pit of my stomach like, oh my God, I made a terrible mistake. I'll tell you what pressure is. Pressure is having a 2-page script written by a 74-year-old madman that makes no sense to you, that's going to make you look stupid, and you're on worldwide TV live and you have to memorize every single line and somehow try to pull it off and not look like a total jackass. That's pressure. A lot of times I did pull that off. A lot of times I didn't. But I'll never have to be in that situation again. Now I just get to be me and it's a nice feeling. He went on to say this about promos from Vince McMahon to Wrestling Observer Radio. We know what their problem is. It's one person, 3 letters, VKM. That's the problem. Until he's gone or relinquishes control, it's just not gonna change. When I watch the show during the pandemic era, I'm just like, oh, thank God I'm not there. Jesus Christ. I mean, what would I be doing on that show right now? Can you imagine? You'd think it would be any good? Like, come on. I want WWE to be awesome. When WWE sucks at this point, I don't get excited like, haha, you suck. It kind of pisses me off because they're the #1 brand in the sport. They represent the sport to a lot of people. And when their product is embarrassing to watch, it makes all of wrestling look bad. And it's like you're driving away fans that could potentially be WWE and AEW fans. Like, I want wrestling all over the world to be awesome. The hotter it is all around, the better it is for everybody, right? He went on to say this in January of 2021 about a WWE return. During a Bleacher Report AMA session, Moxley said, you gotta say never because you don't want to run back what you said years later because you don't know what'll happen. Just the creation of AEW was so vital to the wrestling industry, and that's part of the reason why I'm so proud to be a part of it. I wouldn't rule out ever doing business with them again. We had a mutually beneficial relationship for a long time. If they called, I would listen, but I highly doubt we would ever be on the same page. I'd be open to an idea. I don't not like money. I got a kid on the way and gotta put it through college, so you know, I would take a phone call, but I highly doubt anything would materialize. He would then say this about WWE promos on his wife's podcast. As far as what to put in and what not, it's kind of like a wrestling match or like a promo. That's why WWE promos suck, because they jam 5,000 words in there that aren't necessary. Say what you want to say, mean what you want to say, get your point across. I'm gonna beat your ass on Saturday night because I don't like you. Boom, done. And sometimes in a match, it's like, okay, we planned out all these spots, but really, what is the story? What are we trying to get across? You're the good guy, I'm the bad guy, you're big, you're small, you're tall, you're short, whatever the contrast of styles or the story we're telling. Why do we have all this? Sometimes you just look at it and go, we don't need all that extra shh. He then said this about his frustrations during his time in WWE, specifically about the booking in his book, Mox. I had nothing even close to heat. I was once one of the most popular performers in all of WWE, and now I was lost in the ring in front of confused or apathetic audiences. I was effing dead in the water, irreconcilable, a dog to be taken out back and shot, and I knew it. I was fully aware of it through every slow and excruciating second, yet my objections went ignored or refuted, like that movie where the guy is still awake but paralyzed during open heart surgery. If you sat through any of my segments on TV during this time frame, you know what I'm talking about, unless you blocked it from your memory. If you thought you were confused, imagine what it was like being me. Shh, at least you had a remote control. I couldn't just turn the channel on my own life. I was in a living hell. Gee, it's fun reminiscing. I wasn't just depressed, I was angry. It's not like I don't like money. I don't want things to be this way. Why do they have to make it impossible? Why does everything have to be so effing stupid? They're really gonna make me walk away from all this money, aren't they? They can't just write one good angle. Let me cut one good effing promo? I can't believe it's come to this. There was a time I thought I'd be a lifer with WWE, but this whole place has gone effing mad, and I feel like I'm the only one who can see it. Bunch of MFers just playing violins while they ship sinks, and Vince continues to lose his mind. F him. I'm just gonna go to Japan or something. I tell Renee while sipping on my third stiff drink, I'm telling you, April 30th, I'm effing done. I had been talking about leaving for months, and my mind was long made up, but when I was in a bad mood or 3 drinks in, I would feel the need to reaffirm it for some reason, as if I suspected she didn't believe me. And then finally, once again in his book titled Mox, Jon Moxley would say this about performing at WrestleMania. I'll probably never perform at WrestleMania itself again. If I did, you would know I got paid an absolutely astronomical amount of money and been granted unprecedented creative control. There's really no need to. Given all the things that he has said about WWE since leaving the company, the success he's had in AEW, along with the creative freedom he is granted in that promotion, it's tough to see him ever going back unless it's for a Hall of Fame induction way down the line. Moving on to an AEW star that could go to WWE, could go back to WWE, should I say, is Miro, the man formerly known as Rusev in WWE. He had quite the run going from NXT to the main roster. When he was on the main roster, he had an unbeaten streak that we don't see very often these days. It didn't end until he faced John Cena at WrestleMania for the US title, and he had a lot of hype around him. And of course, he was able to get over with the fans during his time on SmackDown later on with his partnership with Aiden English, and the fans were all going crazy about Rusev Day. The company didn't seem to get behind him on that, but they still had him on TV every week doing his shtick, so what can you do? Regardless, I think Miro is a perfect example of someone that would be willing, at the very least, to have negotiations with WWE for a return. Now, when it comes to when this could happen, it could be a little while. As of March 2nd of this year, it was said that Miro has years left on his AEW contract. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful said, thus far, there's been nothing new on Miro since our last update, although the two sides did meet around the time our report dropped. We're told that he's healthy and ready to go, and haven't heard an update on creative discussions between he and All Elite Wrestling. Miro has several years left on his contract after signing a 4-year extension a year or so ago. So Miro's approximately got about 3 years left. He just recently returned for AEW Collision. Despite the talk that I'm bringing to you that he could be going back to WWE, Miro said this on the sessions to Renee Paquette about why he won't go back to WWE. He said, it's different. Just listening to Sheamus and all of these guys, just knowing he's 4 or 5 days on the road, it's too much. I don't want to do that, especially right now, knowing that eventually I want to do something else. I want to work towards that. He also said this September 25th of last year about how he's not interested in a WWE return. Ryan Frederick of the Wrestling Observer reported Miro does not want to go back. The only guys that really want to go back are the ones who have significant others with the other company. Of course, his wife Lana is no longer working for WWE. But one of the big signs that Miro could be interested in returning to WWE as Rusev, Lana said this on the Mike Winmaker show. She said Rusev Day will never die. It's always going to be around. The kids are going to want to sing it, and I'm sure it will make a return in WWE at some point. You know, Rusev will, whenever he shows back in at whatever freaking name or gimmick or character at some point in WWE, it's going to be iconic. Let's be honest, we know that everyone always returns back to WWE at some point. Given that Miro doesn't seem to have a whole lot of animosity towards WWE like Jon Moxley per se, and the fact that his own wife, Lana, CJ Perry, is saying that everyone returns to WWE. Rusev Day will be back in WWE and it's going to be iconic. You know these two have had discussions about it. More than likely, it would be so odd if she just mentioned this off the cuff without having discussed this one bit with her husband. You have to think they talked about it, so considering the fact that he doesn't have a lot of animosity towards WWE and his own wife said it's pretty much inevitable that he's going to return, you have to think Miro will be back in WWE someday. And that was part 1 of AEW stars that are never going to WWE and some that could go to WWE. We will continue this list at a later date. Be sure to let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, and I will see y'all later.